Thank you, Brother Will. So dear Thay, dear spiritual family, dear friends, more than 200 of you, of us this evening. It's really, as Will said, it's a happy moment. It's really wonderful that we can come together like this. The technology, a gift of the pandemic. There seems to always be a gift in everything. Sometimes we have to look hard for it, but Zoom has been a real lifesaver for us. I want to welcome all of you on behalf of Joyful Garden Sangha. As most of you know, I'm the lay Dharma teacher for Joyful Garden, and since the pandemic and the advent of the use of the technology and the way that we're using it, Joyful Garden has extended ourselves, to include all of this region, and it's just been wonderful. It's been wonderful. We've had such really a lot of happy moments. So I want to ask all of you to join me to welcome Sister True Dedication, our monastic Dharma teacher, senior nun from Plum Village and Plum Village tradition. And most of you know all of this already, but it seems that it's always nice to introduce people and to really formally acknowledge who they are, who we all are together. Sister Dedication, as I said, is a senior nun, and I had the happiness of knowing her before she shaved her head, having met her the first time at the Upper Hamlet in Plum Village, and that was some years ago. And the community, the entire community, has benefited greatly from Sister, because she looks young, and she is young, but I think she's an old soul, because she came to us with a lot of innate wisdom and also the talents of a journalist. So I don't know if all of you know that before she became a nun, she was a journalist for the BBC. And so her talents as a communicator are truly extraordinary, I believe. I don't think that's too strong a word. So many of the publications, the letters, the notices, the news about our teacher's health, so much of that had the stamp of Sister True Dedication, and it's just been quite a gift for all of us, and not just for our community, but globally. Really, she's done a lot to continue our teacher. Most recently, as Will mentioned, COP26, Sister, along with some of the other monastics, attended that meeting that was held in Glasgow. That just warmed our hearts, Sister, to know that we had monks and nuns there sharing the peaceful energy and mindful walking and loving speech. And Sister herself gave a TED talk in Edinburgh a couple of weeks before the actual meetings began in Glasgow. And so I know that there was a huge impact. It changed the energy in the rooms that they were able to go into. And some of you might have seen some of the interviews that came out of the meetings that involved some of our monastics, including Sister. So she's an extraordinary teacher, and we're just really, really happy to have her tonight. Her latest gift to the world, really, is the book that just came out a few weeks ago, Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet. And I know that she will say that it was a collaborative effort, and I'm sure it was. Plum Village, we work as a community, you know, and but she edited many of Thay's talks that he's given through the years on the topic of saving the planet and what we can do and how we can change our behavior and contribute to doing that. And she also included writings of her own. So if you have not read the book, if you don't have the book, I have it on Kindle. So don't have the hard copy here in Vietnam yet, but it's a beautiful book and just full of everything we need to know. So, Sister, without further ado, would you please tell us what to do and how to do it? That's all we really want.
Oh, thank you so much, Trish,
Yes.
for such a warm welcome. I feel like I'm among family here with the wonderful presence of so many of you that I know deeply on this path. For me, Trish is my elder sister. So I would just like to say, for the record, I see myself as the younger in this relationship. And I have also benefited greatly from Trish's leadership and vision and faith and real spiritual joy in building community and walking this path together. So it's an honor for me to be with Trish and to be with all of you. So thank you so much. And I'm just so touched. I've been scrolling through the screens because I really love to see all your faces. So I'm just so touched to see so many of you here and some familiar faces, some new faces. And it's just really wonderful to be able to connect to all of you in this way and to share, I guess, the joy of the Dharma and the joy of our global community. Um,
Sister, you're muted. Yeah.
Sorry, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
No, I was too.
I think these times have been very challenging for all of us, and it's in these moments that we all need to kind of lean in to support one another in our difficulties and to offer that companionship, the spiritual friendship, and the support. To keep ourselves nourished. I think one of the features of the pandemic is that we have lost a lot of our sources of nourishment. And so just being together this evening is already a source of nourishment. And to be able to soak up and talk about some Dharma, some new Dharma, is also a source of nourishment. And for me, so I have the American edition of the book here. And for me, I don't know how to describe it, but this to be able to edit Thay's teachings was such a work of love, and it gave a lot of joy and nourishment to me, because I think Thay has given us everything we need, and he has given all of himself and so generously, and he has so patiently answered our questions over so many years. And at the beginning of the Wake Up movement, many of us in this call now are young in heart and young in spirit. And I was one of the monastics that Thay was helping. Not Thay was helping, Thay was pushing to create the Wake Up movement and this network of young people who would like to build a more compassionate and healthy society and create and protect a more beautiful planet. And so I felt like Thay kind of gave us a lot of fire in our belly and a lot of encouragement and a lot of trust and love, I would say, to be able to face the hill of the 21st century. And we're very lucky that Thay is still with us in bodily form right now in Hue in Vietnam. And that's a source of strength for so many of us. And at the same time, Thay has gifted us really the Sangha and all of these practices and insights and ways of being and ways of meeting with difficult situations that can accompany us through our challenges. And one thing I would really like to share is I feel there's in a way yeah, two things that Thay is offering us, and that we capture in this book. um, and the first is really, and I think this is the deepest gift. It is the deepest insights of Buddhism that can help us change our way of seeing the world and of seeing difficulties in the world. And this is really important. And Thay, in several different interviews, and at one point even at the UK Parliament, he really said, first of all, each of us as a practitioner, we have to change our way of seeing things, our consciousness. And from that, the path will reveal itself. So concretely, what that means is the way we see what's happening on the news around the climate crisis or climate disruption or the destruction of the natural world, we want to meet that news and the potential risk to all of us. Or perhaps it's the news about pandemic or Omicron or whatever it is. So when we want to meet that with the mind of a practitioner, with the mind and heart of insight and deep looking, which for us, as we know, is primarily what we call the insight of into being. So we want to, all of us, as a practitioner, as a student of Thay, our task is first of all to really cultivate and become deeply friends with an insight of into being in how we look at the world, how we look at our close relationships, how we look at our own personal struggles. And this is really, really important because the insight of into being is what will help us have the really deep strength we need for all the challenges to come, the immediate challenges in our daily life and the unfolding challenges that we can feel already on the horizon. And what I love so much about this book is we were able to have all these teachings on the Diamond Sutra and really this deep contemplation breakthrough about the insight of into being from this very ancient Buddhist text. And Thay has called it the oldest text on deep ecology, like in the world. And actually, fun fact, it's also the oldest printed document in the world. And it's on a scroll at the moment in the British Library, in London. And it's a very, very beautiful manuscript that we had a chance to visit with Thay. And so it's printed in Chinese characters and it's dated. And so it's the oldest printed document in the world, is a Zen Buddhist teaching. So how cool is that? So I think that's very cool. And it shows us that we have a whole lineage of wisdom to take refuge in. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. None of us in our generation, we may feel we have the burden of the world on our shoulders, but actually our ancestors have done so much deep looking. They have given us so many insights and so many powerful teachings. And thanks to Thay, he has been able to translate and update these teachings so that we can really apply them to our time. And for those of you that haven't yet read the book, some of you may still be familiar with the Diamond Sutra. It's a truly, truly wonderful text. And the challenge in the Diamond Sutra is for us to get over 4 obstacles. And I'll just say them now, so we just have a sense of the map of how they apply. So we're talking really about daily life and how we get on with our daily life. And many of us, despite our best efforts, are still caught in the idea. So we've got 4 problems. The first pitfall, the first problem that we fall into is that we're so sure that we are a separate person. We are so sure that when we feel grief and despair at what is going on in the world. That's our grief and despair. It's mine. It's heavy and I have to hold it alone. We may feel that our sorrow belongs to us. Or perhaps we think that and this may have, been accentuated in the pandemic, we may have the idea that we are objectively, as a fact, lonely. And that's something, there's something that I have really practiced with also, both as a lay practitioner and in my early years as a nun. We can think that we feel really cut off from the world. And the Diamond Sutra tells us, are you sure? Be careful. Ask again. Look again. You are not a separate self. Just sitting here as we are profoundly and intricately connected with one another. In this very moment, Mother Earth is holding us with her beautiful gravity, which is just right. We're not feeling crunched. We're not floating. We're just feeling perfectly balanced on this beautiful planet. We have some wonderful oxygen to breathe, also gifted to us by the trees and plants. We've been nourished by food in the last few days, and we are here a continuation of that wonderful food. Even if we ate that food alone, Mother Earth was loving us and smiling to us in each mouthful. She was gifting us that food. When we speak about how we're handling things, and many of our beautiful friends in Vietnam are aware of this, Thay has really brought to our practice this dimension of being aware of our ancestors and our lineage. And so one of the, we could say, axes of interbeing is that we are not here alone. We are a continuation already in this moment of our blood ancestors, our spiritual ancestors, our land and cultural ancestors. And the practice here is, in those moments of difficulty and pain and separation in our daily life, to take refuge in these insights, this insight of interbeing, to realize that we are not a separate self cut off from everything else. And that can explain and help us relieve our suffering. And it can also give us strength. So the interbeing also can work as a source of strength when we feel, I'm not strong enough to go through this day. I'm not strong enough to carry this project. I'm not strong enough to speak out alone. We plug into this real vast sense of interconnection. So, Diamond Sutra, first teaching to help us concretely, practically in our daily life, we're not a separate self. Second teaching, there's no such thing as a human being, category human, that is completely different from the rest of the world. This becomes really important in our modern capitalistic, exploitative lifestyle. We are using the earth and drawing those resources to our sort of human exploits, and we are forgetting the fact that as humans we are made of the earth. We are interdependent with the earth, and biologists are very happy to tell us that I think there's more DNA that is non-human in our bodies than there is DNA that is human. So we're already a community. I think most of it's in our gut and our digestive system. We have a lot of different organisms that we coexist with, and they can even affect our state of being, our feelings in our body. So we're already, each one of us, a community, and we are completely dependent on the trees, on the Amazon rainforest, on the savannas in Africa, on the oceans. And so we belong to a system. And this helps us, I think, have a certain humility generosity, and also a kind of, it helps cut through the wrong view that we can do whatever we want. And oh, this is my bell. It's a bird. Thank you for breathing with me. I have a bird clock that sounds on the hour. So Thay had one in his hermitage, and so some of us here in this, this is actually, I'm in the editorial space at the moment. So you can find them online. They are very, very wonderful and inspiring. A nice way to breathe. And I always imagine breathing with Thay when I breathe with the bird. It's very nice. So our body is a community of cells. We're depending on the whole planet. And this is very important to cultivate right view, to see that each one of us, whatever we are doing to protect the earth in our own ways. So some of us may live in Singapore, which has some beautiful parks and gardens, but perhaps not masses of wild spaces. and others of us may live closer, may even have some gardens that we are taking care of ourselves. To see, and this is a real practice and a training, to see that taking care of the earth, we are taking care of ourselves. We're not taking care of some inert matter that is outside of us. And this is very important as a view, because we are changing how our heart is relating to the earth. It's not an object that is exactly separate from us. We inter-are with the earth. So we're definitely not a separate self. We should really question the idea that humans are separate from the earth. And we can do that in terms of our scientific understanding, and in terms of our deep looking into our body, our eating, our breathing. And the third insight that the Diamond Sutra invites us to explore is that we cannot discriminate between living matter and inert matter. And this is very interesting, because we may think, for example, that it's easier to care for trees than to care for rocks or water or air. Or we may think it's easier to care for bugs or mammals than to care for elements. But when we see that there is no such thing, and this is, Thay would explain it in terms of physics, all the atoms are very, very busy doing their thing. There's no, even a table is not a static item. When we see that, we can see life where it may be harder to see life. And that allows our heart to open with compassion, when we don't discriminate between what we call alive and dead, or living and inert. And I have this experience when I walk on wooden panels. I don't think, oh, this is a dead tree. I think, oh, this is a gift of the trees. And there is so much life on this wooden floor that I am walking along. And it means that in all of our decisions and actions, we're not putting life in a box and saying this is the extent of life and everything else is death. But we see the deep interbeing between all kinds of matter in the world. I have a funny story about a printer. I once had to print a document for Thay just before a Dharma talk, and it was about 3 minutes before the Dharma talk started, and the printer wouldn't work. And I had to deliver this to Thay, and I thought, gosh, what can I do? And I had a little feeling of anger towards this printer, this box of plastic. Why aren't you working, you machine? I've given you everything. You have paper, you have ink, you have been restarted. What is your problem? And then suddenly I was like, this printer used to be oil, and that oil, the plastic that became the printer used to be oil. That oil used to be rainforests. In fact, this printer is a rainforest that probably doesn't want to be a printer right now. So I hugged this printer and I said, "Dear rainforest, please help me right now. Thay really needs this document." And I'm so sorry you have to be plastic, but it's a great honor to be able to print a document for Thay. So if you wouldn't mind, please. And I turned it off and on again, and okay, it worked. And so Thay got his document, and I felt like the printer was giving me a teaching that even we can see life everywhere, and we just have to look far enough back in time. So we're not a separate self. We can't use categories like human being and not human being. We can't use categories like being alive or being dead. And fourthly, we shouldn't be caught in the idea of a lifespan. And this becomes so important when it comes to our planetary crises, because we may think, what can little me do? So, okay, you're already caught in the problem of thinking you're a separate little me, but what can I do in my lifetime compared to this very big problem? And if we are caught in that idea, we may come up with things like, it's too late, I won't bother, I'm just going to enjoy my life, I'll eat what I want, buy what I want, fly wherever I want, because it's too late and I'm just going to enjoy life, live in the moment. So sometimes we hear this, and others say, what's the point in me helping, because I won't be here to see the problems. The problems aren't happening in my lifetime, so why would I help? Or we have the idea of, this problem doesn't belong to my generation. It was the previous generation's fault. Therefore, I would just live however I would like to live for me. And the karma, the retribution is falling on those before. And this is where we get into really interesting, deep Dharma territory. Because here's the thing, and we explore this idea in the book. We will be participating in the future of our planet. And we were already participating in the past, because we ourselves are a continuation of our ancestors. We're a manifestation in this moment of the past, and we will be participating in the future in new forms. Our karmic impact of body, speech, and now will be carried forward. So we can't say that we have nothing to do with the past and nothing to do with the future. We are a river, a flow of heritage, and this moment is our chance to be alive. And as practitioners in this moment, we have a chance to do our best, to shift a little bit of our karmic legacy, to say, I will do these things or say these things, or I will not do these things and not say these things. And in so doing, we kind of introduce some positivity in this river that we are participating in. And in the true Mahayana spirit, and we belong to a Mahayana tradition, we say that in each act, it contains the all. So no matter how small our actions are, they reverberate and resonate across space and time. And it's the virtue of one single act in this moment kind of resonates without limit. And we don't think, we don't dare to assume that we can see the limits of our action, that we cannot. And Thay gave these teachings very strongly, and many of them also appear in another wonderful book called The Art of Living, which is Thay's teachings on no birth and no death, from 2014, from the last 21-day retreat that Thay gave. So, sorry, Trish, I spoke a little bit longer than I thought, but this is just a sense of how in this book we are And Thay is taking some of these ancient Buddhist teachings and giving it to us so we can really cultivate insight that can help us every day with difficult moments. And I said there's two really important things. The second important thing is that in these books, and in this book, it's probably like at least the middle half of the book is really about our way of living that embodies these kind of insights, the kind of daily resilience in being able to nurture happiness with the energy of mindfulness and handle our suffering with the energy of mindfulness, and how we do that in the light of the 5 mindfulness trainings. And when we were at in Scotland in the preparations for the COP26, everyone was very excited about technological solutions and policy solutions in terms of new kinds of energy, new kinds of oil, different ways of measuring pollution, or different kinds of transportation, or new ways to make concrete. And everyone was very excited in technological solutions. But the thing is that, yes, we have to do a lot of what's called kind of adaptation to really change how we run our economies. And we also will have to do a lot of what's called like mitigation, which means reducing the amount of pollution, reducing the destruction of the natural world as far as possible. But the key third element to go with adaptation and mitigation is the human beings that will need to be riding the waves of crisis. And so a really important element in how we respond to situations is, can we be the best of ourselves as humans? Can we handle our strong emotions? Can we collaborate with one another? Can we not panic? Can we reach out to include instead of discriminate? Can we practice generosity of spirit instead of cultivating greed or craving? So the human dimension of the planetary crises at the moment is just as important as the technological solutions or even the policy solutions. And what we found when we were in these conferences was that everyone is thirsty to be a better human or simply just to be human together, to not be fighting and struggling, to relax, to arrive into their body. And what we all know as practitioners is the more we can come back to our body and our breathing in any difficult moment. We may have had this experience already at work or with our families or even in Sangha life, getting together. In difficult moments, if we can come back and really root and ground ourselves in our body, we know that insight naturally arises. We know what to say, what to do to help, and what not to say and what not to do. And so we absolutely can't kind of underestimate the power of our mindfulness practice as the kind of superpower that we are bringing to this planetary situation, so that each one of us can be grounded, can be alert, can be authentic, honest, free, and at ease to really give the best of ourselves in any situation. And that is, in a way, for me, what I consider to be Thay's message about Zen and the art of saving the planet. Is it's our way of being, much more than our way of doing. That if we can change our way of seeing and our way of being, then we will be able to equip ourselves with everything we need to face the challenges ahead. So I'm going to pass back to Trish, and maybe, I don't know if our bell master would like to invite a sound of the bell, and maybe Trish has a few questions for me to unpack some of what I've been sharing, and we can also hear some questions from you all.
Well, I notice that I feel excited. I feel really excited by what you've been sharing with us, and it occurred to me something that I wanted to ask you about anyway. In the book, I think actually I made a note so I wouldn't forget. I think it's in one of Thay's talks where he mentions universal community. And then I think it might have been in one of your writings where you talk about the need for communities of resilience. And then as I was hearing you say that at COP26 that you realize that everyone just really wants to be a good human being, wants to do the good thing, wants to be happy, wants to connect with other people. And then my mind just then went to the gift of the pandemic, because here we are, just as we are realizing that we really need to collaborate, we need to work together, remember that we're not alone, that we are one cell in this whole organism of Mother Earth and all life forms that are part of Mother Earth, all of Mother Earth's children. Just as we're realizing that we have to practice social distancing, we have to be on Zoom rather than in a retreat. But I see that as the gift is that we are really learning to value something that we weren't paying attention to before. I see that in my own family. Here, I have a son here in Da Nang with me, and how much closer we've become in the last year and a half as we've realized how precious the relationship and how precious every moment is, you know. And yeah, so what's my question of you? Well, to realize you could see all the faces, and you see that in this region of the world, people are young and energetic and smart, and really wanting to do good things. You know, that's been my experience here in Vietnam. I suppose it's really one of the reasons I stayed. And then my connection with Singapore and then the rest of Asia, Malaysia, is to see how energetic everyone is. And so it's like there's this was supposed to be the century of Asia. And I think it is, but maybe not in the way that the developers thought it would be. You know, they were thinking economic development. And so you've mentioned technology and using technology. Well, if you had come on a little bit earlier, you would have thought you might have been in NASA control headquarters or something, as Singapore, as they were talking about, okay, you do this, and okay, and then I'll tune in with that. They have they know about the technology. You know, the technology here is much more advanced than in the U.S. Never mind that I did lose my stable connection a few minutes ago, so it's not 100%. But talk to us a little bit about that. You know, how can those of us who live here, or the young ones who live here, they are so tech savvy. What's the contribution that Asia can make? You said it looks like we're not quite ready to use the technology to solve our real problems, but maybe.
Thank you, Trish, for this. So, I think technology can be our friend, and some of us may be aware in 2013, which was Thay's last tour to America, and he gave a lot of teachings in Silicon Valley in Northern California at that time, also to the different tech companies. And Thay was really driving them. Technology should help us suffer less, you know, and help remove the destruction of the planet, or help serve our intention not to destroy our planet. So in that sense, we can embrace technology. And actually in some of our precepts, and including in the 14, in terms of our awareness of suffering and compassion, there's even this line, and Thay came up with this line maybe 20 years ago, that we can use technology and audio visual means. He has this really archaic language. He's like, and I will use telephone and other audio visual technology to be with those who suffer and to offer support. So for Thay, technology has always been a portal, a doorway that can help us to connect. And even here in the monastery, it has been a great sorrow to not have folks visiting for retreats, and we're now coming up to almost 2 years of being closed. But we are trying our best to open for the New Year's in 2 weeks' time. If French law will allow us, we are going to try. And so we've also learned how compassion, connection, and intimacy can be developed through the technology. And like you say, on the one hand, when we can have a real hug with someone, we know that the human body is really responding to a hug in a visceral way. It's giving us all the right triggers when we can actually hold someone in our arms. And at the same time, our mind is incredibly adaptive, and just seeing one another on the screen, feeling our hearts open, listening to the sound of one another's voices, seeing one another's facial expressions. We are in community through the screen, even though we are so thirsty to be able to come together and sing in person and have a bonfire or do whatever we want to do together. And I think Thay has great faith and hope in the incredible potential of the East, of Asia, of all of the countries that are represented on this call. And for Thay, he would say, we have, or you have, the ancestral transmission. These teachings are deep in your body and soul. There's a real practice of understanding the power of community. Individualism is something that the West, unfortunately, we have exported and cultivated, and it's connected to a lot of dualism that came out of several centuries of maybe misguided development in the West. And Thay gave two very powerful teachings when it would have been around 2011 in Vietnamese, that we hope to be able to make available with English translation, about how not to denaturalize Thay's teachings as we bring them to the West. And with that, there's a wink of saying, you guys got this in Asia. You guys understand exactly, directly, without the obstacle of the dualism in the West. And I think that when we can dig deep into our spiritual roots in Asia to find the inspiration, the practices, and really the guidance and insight from our ancestors, you got this. Like, you know how to organize. We know how to support one another. We know how to nourish one another. And I think, as has been mentioned as we were preparing for this session today, we're aware that if a lot of the ice in the poles is lost, and we are facing an increase in the level of the oceans, all of those countries that are on deltas and that are close to the oceans will face a very challenging century ahead, or 50 years ahead. And so for all of us, that is something to sit with, to be with, and to practice a deep level of acceptance. And the reason Thay said that acceptance is so important is because in denial, we are in delusion. In denial, if we pretend it's not happening, we won't have the strength of the awakening that we need. So it seems like a paradox, but it's by seeing the truth, sitting with the truth, accepting the truth. That connection is like in the Platform Sutra, it's the connection with the afflictions that will give the awakening. We contemplate the real risk to societies and to the earth and to cities with climate change. And the more we sit with and breathe with and accept this possibility, the awakening that will arise in us will be so powerful, because we've got nothing to lose, people. So we give everything of ourselves. Change of livelihood, no problem. Use my energy differently, no problem. There's so much that we can do to build community and build a different future when we know what is at stake. And I believe that with the great spiritual heritage of Asia, and like you say, the youth, the creativity, the ingenuity, the resourcefulness, there is no reason why we need to wait. And in a way, in the book and in all the youth retreats that Thay was hosting here in Plum Village in Europe, Thay was saying, young ones, go forth, do what you can.
Right.
You've got all you need. Stick to each other, stick to the practice, and you can do this. And your ancestors are there offering our support. And for me, it's very powerful. Thay has a lot of trust and love in you all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a wonderful time to be alive on the planet. Yeah, it's a wonderful time. Yeah. So I think maybe we could use this time going forward to open up for a Q&A session with Sister. She indicated that she likes that format.
Sure, yes, please.
Of course.
Thank
Well,
you.
you can know that you're answering, you're directing you're answering what needs to be answered. Yeah. So, okay. I'm going to mute myself to help with the reception. Trish bowing out. Thank you, Sister.
So thank you, Sister Dedication and Sister Trish. So maybe I'd like to invite Sister Lay, our bell master, to invite the sound of the bell, and let's breathe together and let's shift together. Make that little shift back to our body and our breath. Sister Lay, please. Thank you, dear Bell, and thank you, Sister Lay. So, dear Sangha, we have some time for Q&A. I noticed there are already some questions in the chat box. So we can do this in really three ways. The first way is Brother David has kindly pasted the Mentimeter link on the chat. In the chat, please enter the code so that you can then enter the question that you want. So this is for those of us who would like to ask a question from our heart anonymously. But we also would like to prioritize and welcome live questions. So if you have a live question that you want to ask, please use the raise hand function in Zoom. I hope everybody knows how to do that. You just click on reactions, and then there is this raise hand, and then we'll try and call your name to ask the question live. And I can see that Dennis has already raised your hand, Brother Dennis. And then the third way is if you are having problems with Mentimeter, you can just type your question in the chat box. So these are three ways. I think we'll go with the flow, and we'll see what questions they are, and at some point I'll ask Brother David to flash the questions in a group on screen so that Sister Dedication and even Sister Trish can have a look and then can respond to it. Maybe and in between each question, just before we answer, we'll invite Sister Lay to invite the sound of the bell so we can gather ourselves. So that's the format. So maybe we can start with Brother Dennis, who wants to ask a live question. So Brother Dennis, maybe you can. Okay, you're bowing up.
Dennis bowing in. I'm not a brother. This is my bathrobe, just so you know. I'm from Florida in the U.S. What I was wondering about, and recently I participated in the retreat, the Plum Village, the Rains retreat. So I'm new to all of this in many ways, but I've had other uh, studied other things related to it. But what I was wondering is, you're talking about drawing on the East and technology and the monastic traditions. Is I haven't heard anybody really talk specifically about consciously manifesting change and using the power of meditation. Um, there has been some work done where you can put the power of 300 or more people meditating, uh, placing positive mental formations into the field of all possibilities and manifesting the kind of change that we want. And what I was wondering is there a role for the monastic traditions to map out, and maybe this is where map up map out what has to happen at the country level, at any level, and create a series of meditations to consciously manifest the kind of change we want to see in the world as it relates to the earth and the planet. And so I was just wondering, has anybody thought about that? We talk about many, many, many things, but I haven't heard anybody talk about that exactly. Dennis bowing out.
Thank you, Dennis, for this question. Um, I remember in the 2012 science retreat, Thay said, scientists haven't yet found a way to measure the power of mindfulness or the energy of a mindful step, but maybe one day they will develop a kind of device that can measure the power of these things. We speak a lot, Dennis, about vow and intention and aspiration. And in Buddhism, this is a very important energy. And we do speak about it also in this book as a kind of fuel. So our intention is a source of fuel. And so it is there guiding our thinking, our speech, and our actions, our deepest intention. And so it's really important for each of us to also take time to identify our deepest intention, what is driving all of those actions and decisions in our daily life. And I love the picture you paint of a few hundred people like a kind of prayer engine that can bring something into the world. Thay also spoke about the power of collective energy and collective practice, which is why Sangha is so important. And often when, for me, I would have the image of our retreats or public events where we would generate the energy of compassion in a hall of 1,000 or 10,000 people. And that could be very powerful for 20 minutes, and it can be very healing for everyone, those of us who are chanting as well as those of us who are listening. And some of us may have had the experience of touching that energy, and we kind of know what it is. And I think if you're interested, Dennis, you can read more about this in our teacher's book that's called The Art of Prayer, The Art of Prayer, where he explores a little bit maybe his more metaphysical understanding of this energy. But the element I want to take from what you're saying is it would be great if some wise folks could map out a path of action that we could all focus our energy towards. And we've heard this a few times, especially around the COP. And since then, a lot of the elders and leaders that we met are asking, what does Thay's continuation body think? What would we like to offer? Do we have a simple 5-point plan? And Thay was very good at different points in his spiritual life of giving 5-point plans. So we're cooking the insight for a 5-point plan. Maybe in the new year we will come up with that to see really how to focus, and that is something we do now as a sangha, as a collective. So I would just sort of for us, action is action in the mind, action in all our speech and spoken relationships and messages and emails, and action in the body. And I think we need all three kinds of action. And if we were just to sit in prayer, maybe that would only be action of the mind, which is some kind of action, but maybe not quite enough. We would need the other two kinds as well. But it's a good question, and watch this space for a 5-point plan. Thank you, Dennis. Yeah.
Thank you, Sister Lee. And maybe for sound of the bell, please. Thank you. So, dear Sangha, so some of us will know that the time now is actually weekly Wake Up Singapore practice time. So I would like to cheekily invite one of our wake-uppers in Singapore to ask a question. So Brother Babu, I know you have a question. So Brother Babu, please.
Dear Thay, dear Sangha, dear Sister Trish, dear Sister True Dedication. My question has two parts. So it's about interbeing, like you were talking in your teaching today. And one of the passages from the book, one of your sharings that stuck with me was the story you mentioned about Christiana Figueres when she was in Paris, and how she used the insight of interbeing to kind of change that story about the perpetrator and victim, and to be able to talk with so many people, so many countries, so many parties around the world. And, you know, the last couple of months, as I become more aware of the situation and trying to figure out how I can contribute, how can I help? And we talk about it a lot in our wake up practices. And I'm curious, how do you engage with people in the movement who are not familiar with Plum Village? Like, you know, it's obviously great that someone like Christiana can follows the teachings of Thay, can understand that language. But when I kind of listen to activists or groups or movements, I'm obviously grateful for all their sacrificing and all the efforts they're doing to help our planet. But I also hear that, you know, the language of us versus them, of blaming certain people and groups for the situation we're in. And I notice a lot of them like to give, you know, these are our demands. This is what we're demanding. And, you know, I don't think Thay would you know, support that type of communication. So I'm wondering, you know, I don't think I can show up into a earth movement and say, you know, maybe we should stop blaming people, maybe we should stop making demands. But, you know, how can we engage with, you know, such a noble cause of supporting the planet, even though that there might be this different view in how we communicate. And my second part is in one of Brother Foplin's sharings at the conference, he said before he left Plum Village that Sister Hainim gave him a bag of acorns. So I'm wondering if you could share why you decided to give that gift. It seems very thoughtful. So thank you.
Thank you, Babu, for this question. Maybe I start with the acorns. Yes, actually, just to clarify, so a group of us went to this pre-conference that took place also in Scotland a couple of weeks ahead of the of the COP26, and that was called TED Countdown. And then after that, then they said, what do you mean you're not going also to COP26? And so then they had 2 places, but it was really at the last minute, so they could only give 2 badges for the COP26. So I didn't actually go, but we made a joke that we were Houston here. It's like sending a rocket ship from Plum Village. And so we had a crew of us that were called Houston here in Plum Village. So we were behind the scenes helping for COP26, but we weren't actually physically there in person. But we were supporting from behind the scenes. I was aware that our brothers would be meeting many thousands of people. And because they also had a program of different events they were asked to participate in, different support they were giving to different negotiating teams at different points in the day, in terms of breathing moments and guided meditations, and also supporting activists as well as supporting politicians, as well as supporting scientists. So I knew that there would be many moments when they maybe only had three seconds to bow and to greet someone. So I had experience from the previous COP that we supported in Paris in 2015. So I said, I think you need to take a bag of acorns from Thay's deck in Plum Village, that beautiful hut that Thay has overlooking the fields, and the acorns are always falling onto the deck. And so the brothers took a bag of acorns from Thay's deck, and so everyone they met, they could offer them an acorn. And I think for me, the acorn represents our beginner's mind, our highest aspiration, our wish to nurture and to grow, and that from something even very small, we can grow something very big. And even if that acorn, that acorn also has the nature of no birth and no death, whether it gets put in a cup and can sprout or whether it gets put in the soil, it also becomes a symbolic acorn. So I think they had a lot of fun. And I think Brother Spirit joked that it was a bottomless bag. Like no matter how generous he was with these acorns, he never seemed to run out. So that was very kind of the cosmos to ensure that happened. And about how we can relate to activists. Here's the thing. I think in our own mind also, we don't want to discriminate. Are we an activist or not? We are someone who cares. We are someone who wants to support. We're someone acting in the world, and we would like our action to help. So first of all, I think to break any sense of dualism, even between us and the angry activists, or us and the perpetrators. So we're all being human, and everyone actually in their different roles is acting somehow. And this becomes really important because it's the principle of what Thay would call not taking sides. So our concentration is also not to see sides and not to ourselves identify, am I inside or outside these sides? We're just humans, and then we're going to meet another human. And it's by meeting others in their humanity that we can help them realize that hatred and anger burns. And that is in a way the gift that we can offer the activists, those who identify as activists. And so they're burning and they need help. They are on an unsustainable path, and first they just need our help and compassion. They don't even need our advice or our views or anything. At the same time, the business people who may be in their denial and in their story of, so for example, in Scotland, as part of the TED event, there was a dialogue between a young activist and the head of Shell oil company. What was unusual and unexpected for us in this conference is they put us in the hotel with all the top people of the conference and all the more wealthy people. And I said, no, please, we don't want to be in a 5-star hotel. We want to be in the most cheap hotel with all the other people, volunteers or whoever. And they said, no, we need you to be in this hotel because we want you to see these people every breakfast. So that was we were doing Dharma work at breakfast. And what was interesting was that all the financial people and corporate people wanted to take refuge in us. Like they were so spiritually thirsty. It's just hard to describe, because they spend their whole life with a mask and doing business and serving the world by making profit and producing products. But like inside, they had such a need to be with us. At the same time, the young activists had a real need to be with us. And sometimes you would in a corridor and you talk to the corporate person or the oil person, you turn the corner, 30 seconds, 5 seconds, and then it's the young activist. So we were really like in the middle. So in the middle. So our heart has to be an undivided heart. It's just a heart, right? And as a practitioner, I think that's the heart we want to cultivate, which is to be able to converse with everyone involved and ask them just what is their concern. And in that, you hear the view and you hear the story. And so concretely, I think as a practitioner, our first gift is to offer the gift of presence and listening. And say we choose to join a protest, say we choose to support an activist group or environmental group. We're not going to give Dharma or to give practice. Our first offering is simply our presence and our listening, because these poor people have not had enough listening to themselves, to each other. They haven't got anyone in their teams who is fully present. They're all lost on their phones. You know, one thing I've now discovered is Instagram and Twitter activism is like an absolute realm. And no one is being fully there to listen and to take care. And for those corporate folks who look like the perpetrator, also they don't have anyone listening to them, because honestly, if they're in that role, it's because they don't have a spiritual dimension in their life yet. But it doesn't mean they're not thirsty for one. And so what we found was that listening was the best gift we could offer. And there was a confrontation between the young activist and between the oil leader, which you can all find online, facilitated by Christiana. It's a very interesting moment in environmental activism, because Christiana wasn't sure about it, and we were encouraging her. No, it's very important to hold a broad space, and we don't interview one and then he leaves the stage and then we interview the other. But we were saying the idea is we all come in our humanity to see if we can dialogue. And there's a section in the book called Brave Dialogue, where we really talk about, and that's the section, Babu, that you're mentioning. So we were Christiana's spiritual support for her to hold this space, which ended up being a conflict and an explosion between the activist and the Shell leader. And ultimately, it's the egg that you have to break the egg sometimes to make the omelet. And it actually made the conference a very real conference, because we were able to practice open communication. Each side just had to hear each other. They couldn't pretend that they were on a different channel, because it's a human in front of you. And it really made the conference, that whole moment, and it revealed the challenge of conscious, mindful, compassionate dialogue, and how important it is and how hard it is, but how that's the most important thing we can do. And after that, we were very concerned for the young people, because they were quite shaken. So we did what we do, and we said we would like to offer you a deep listening session. We will just sit and listen to you this afternoon for anyone who's feeling really shaken by this protest and this conflict. So we did that. And we just sat and listened. I don't think we did any Dharma. I mean, we did mention that mindful breathing and handling strong emotions is a skill that if they wanted at a later time, we could show them how to do that. But we didn't impose anything. And this is another part of our practice. As we intervene in these spheres, we don't impose our views or our teachings on others. But the gift we offer, I think, first of all, is the listening and the compassion. And then after that, this young activist, she has expressed that she would like us to do some online sessions for their group, to be able, especially to handle their strong emotions, to be able to be in their body and stay calm when they're triggered by others, and not be a victim of their own strong emotions when they feel hatred coming up towards these people. So we do hope to do that. And then this week we heard the news that Shell has now pulled out of, because the topic of the argument was a new oil field near Scotland. And just 3 days ago, Shell announced they won't do that new oil field anymore. So I feel like we really witnessed a moment where communication and true communication did something in the heart of the oil company leader, that he got an insight from that moment. And so what's interesting is the activists, I don't know if they feel grateful to him. I don't know if they want to thank him. I haven't yet seen that in their posts. They are still, we won, the baddies lost, right? Whereas I think actually, as they're not practitioners, but if we were a practitioner, and if I had a chance to contact him, I would want to say thank you. Like, thank you for waking up. Thank you. It must have been a very hard decision. It looks like you're making a U-turn. It looks like, but thank you for being wise and compassionate and taking the right choice that was difficult. And so, yeah, this is just, I'm just trying to paint one picture of how loving speech, presence, and practice can help us relate to the different groups involved. And we don't need to be a monastic to do it. Any one of us can practice deep listening in any setting, and we can be that peacemaker. Is, yeah, a big word, but it's a real word. Be a peacemaker in difficult moments. And we will be continuing our work here in Plum Village, because Christiana will be bringing 200 of her closest friends in this field to Plum Village in May. So we're hoping also to be able to train and transmit these practices to some more leaders in the climate movement in May. So thank you for this question, Babu. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Brother Babu, for the question. So, Sister Lay, please. As we practice deep listening and presence with the bell. So, dear Sangha, now we will try right technology. So Brother David is going to share the screen. A lot of us have asked questions on Mentimeter. And Sister Dedication, this is a challenge, a little bit of a challenge for you, but we will, let's pause for a few moments for you to take in the vibe, the questions, and we'll invite you to share whatever comes from those questions.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think I can group them into three. So one about shopping, and I also saw one in the chat about consuming. I heard that Singapore is like a shopping capital of Asia. Is that true? It might be, huh? I can see some smiles. So how do you stop yourself from going back to your habits of shopping to pamper yourself? So the koan, the challenge here is what are all the ways that we can take care of ourselves? I remember when I first came into the monastery, all those things that I used to be able to do outside in the world to create a happy moment for myself were gone, and basically all I had left was like chocolate and Well, it became chocolate and rice cakes, and I think, and then after that, it became coffee. Because I couldn't go to the cinema, I couldn't meet a friend in a cafe, I couldn't, do all these different things. So what's very interesting is, and is very doable, is, and as a novice, and an aspirant, we were taught we just have to make a list. What are all the things that we can do to generate a feeling of happiness that are acts of self-care that don't include shopping? And and you've got to really make this list, that no matter how bad you're feeling and no matter what is coming up inside, what can you do? In my list, I had things like take a shower, go walking on the grass, the mossy grass with bare feet, never fails to make me happy. Like, that always makes me feel better. Another one was tidy up my stuff, like my papers or my notebooks or my clothes, but it's like, we have to know ourselves. What are the things that when we're feeling terrible and we need to actively generate self-care, what does that list of options look like for you? And how can it not include consuming? And I think the thing about consuming, of course, there are things that we need. Thay once took a group of monks and nuns when we were in Magnolia Grove Monastery in Mississippi. He said, I'm going to take you all to Walmart. And I don't know if any of you know this, but Walmart is like the cheapest, most unethical, maybe, supermarket in the States. And but everything is very cheap and poorly made. And Thay did like slow walking meditation down the aisles of Walmart with a group of monks and nuns. And then he does like a teaching in front of different items. He's like, my child, this, you see, is full of toxins. And if you buy this cleaning product, you will be pouring toxins into our beautiful oceans, our beautiful earth. And then he went along and he's like, this, my child, you look at this packaging, look at this. So Thay was like, you have to be able to practice supermarket meditation, looking deeply. So when we're consuming, we shouldn't be consuming like, I want. That would be our manas mind, this part of our consciousness called manas that is always looking outside of ourselves to be fulfilled and always grasping after comfort. We don't want to shop with the manas mind. We want to shop with the insight of into being, with clear eyes. And if it means you need to stand in front of shelves and just ask yourself, where has this come from? And where is it going? Like, what will happen to the packaging after I've bought it? What has been made in this? Is there exploitation, injustice, and so on? So any of us that haven't yet done supermarket meditation, you're invited to try, and or shopping meditation by looking deeply, because actually it's just wrong view. Like, we think we will feel better if we get this thing. We think it's a comfort, but the comfort is very short-lived. Like, it may just be a few minutes. And then when you see that item for a few days, but then maybe it's already old after 3 or 4 days and it can't give you the comfort that you thought. And what's interesting is when we want to buy, there is a feeling of lack coming up inside. And so the art also as a practitioner is to learn to see what is the lack, the feeling of inadequacy coming up in our heart. And the trick is to identify it, like, oh, why am I feeling empty? Why am I feeling inadequate? That I don't have enough, that I am not enough. And then we want to be able to take time to be with that painful feeling, to breathe with it, to listen to it for a few minutes. And then to see how could we transform that feeling at the roots. Like, maybe someone had said something to us earlier that day and it just made us feel so bad about ourselves. And so we need to be able to identify, what was that thing? How did we feel? Why did we feel like that? Is it true that we need to feel bad? Was there a grain of truth in what the person said? Or is it true that I'm inadequate? What are all the ways in which I am enough? life is a miracle and I belong to that miracle of life. And so you really start to practice in such a way that we get to the roots of the consuming, and whether it's shopping or whether it's like eating food, or drinking or snacking on sugar, all these things, they will, when we reach, it's that moment of reaching for something is driven by a feeling of inadequacy in ourselves. And so part of the art of being a practitioner is to know how to feel fulfilled. I have a bird. Yeah, how can we offer ourselves the gift of fulfillment? And for example, we have practices like touching the earth that can help us feel full of the cosmos. They are real contemplation on interbeing and interconnection, and they can also be a place of refuge for really nourishing a sense of being fulfilled. And there was another question that said, how can we practice loving the earth in daily life? Maybe this is one of them, consuming less. And we know that a plant-based diet, and for those of us who aren't fully vegetarian, even if 50% of our days we can eat vegetarian or vegan, that is already a gift to the earth. The choices we make about consuming and buying, that is already a gift to the earth. And there are many wonderful organizations that talk about what are the most high impact things we can do for the earth, and some of them are unexpected. There's a company, a charity called drawdown.org, and they used to quote Thay on their page. They have it like, what are the top 10 things anyone can do, and they're always changing what are the top things you can do. But you can check it out if you are not familiar with this website. But one of them, for example, is education and conversations and women's education. There are many ways that we can be involved in different areas of our life that are already loving the earth concretely. But for us, we would say that to be able to fall in love with the earth in our daily life is an important source of bodhicitta and fuel. And so a question is, to ask ourselves, am I in love with the earth yet? When I think of the earth, like, what is the image? When I think of an element of the earth I want to protect, what is it? Is it a favorite mountain or river or garden or tree or animal? Like, what is that part of the earth? What is that characteristic that we really love, that really makes our hearts sing? And Thay encouraged all of us, that is our challenge. Have we fallen in love with the earth yet? And what is the contact? So to really be in touch with mindfulness, with breathing, with listening, with the body, to really take time to listen to the earth and allow our heart to open with care and humility and love for the earth. And the opening passage of the book is an invitation to listen deeply to the earth. And so when we say do things for the earth or helping the earth, it's also in our way of being with the earth. So as a practitioner, we want to cultivate a way of being with the natural world and with the earth, where our heart is open and where there is love. And then our actions are fueled by love. And maybe we need to set aside time. This is my falling in love with the earth time. Like, you don't go on a date, with somebody else or with your friends. It's like, I'm going on a date with my favorite tree on Saturday afternoon. I'm going to hang out and be nourished by being with that tree and listening to what that tree has to tell me. And there was a question which also relates to this, which is those of us, and on this call, we may have some of us who have been actively doing our best to help the earth, maybe for many decades. And there's a real sense of maybe we haven't come far enough, or maybe a sense of disappointment, maybe a sense of we saw this coming, why couldn't we stop it? And it can be very easy to get caught in regrets about the past and fears for the future. And I would say that our practice in the case of this is to allow ourselves to trust in the wonders of life in the present moment, to trust in this planet that has her own ways of being and knowing, to trust in the young generation that is waking up and is taking action and is having a completely different approach to how we want to live, and to also offer yourself the gratitude of, I have done my best. I know I have done my best. And now I need to heal, just as the earth needs to heal. And so for those of us that have made our contribution already, then let us enjoy our time with the trees, with the mountains, with the rivers, and we entrust ourselves to earth, because life is short and we don't know how short, we don't know how many days we have. And what a pity if we didn't have a chance to celebrate our deep interconnection and belonging to this beautiful planet. And you have done your part. I think it was 40 years of activism. You have done your part, and we are all deeply, deeply grateful. And now, please enjoy the birds. Please enjoy the trees. Please enjoy the mountains. And we will do our best, those that come after. And we also, our generation, we will trust that those who come after us, they will also do their part. So we are part of a river of life, and we are doing what we can where we are. And we all have that responsibility to plug in to the earth, not like in Avatar, but hey, why not? Maybe like in Avatar, that we find the mother tree, we find that energy that gives us the most nourishment, and we are fueled and we are sustained on our path from that contact we have with nature, from taking refuge in nature in our daily life. And for those of us that are younger in years and earlier on our journey of helping the planet, we know Thay's message that by taking refuge in community, we can go much, much further. It's like a drop of water trying to go to the ocean will dry up along the way. But if we join a river, we will make it to the ocean. And the river's arrival at the ocean is our arrival, not to mention separate drop or not. So for us to be able to take refuge in a river of practice, to be able to take refuge in community, is our joy, is our happiness, is our fulfillment. We get to laugh together, cry together, work together, nourish each other, help each other when we're doing too much. Some take it in turns to step forward and step back. And this is why Thay has said that one Buddha is not enough. The future of the Sangha is a community, and the merits of that community cannot be measured. We will go as far as we can in this lifetime, and it will carry forward by the generations that follow us. And coming to the sort of other set of questions around pain, and how can we really handle pain? And I feel that as practitioners, we have access to ways of being and practices that can help us hold the pain. And there are like two kinds of pain, right? There's the existential pain, the pain that keeps us awake at night and we feel is like nagging behind our mind, kind of. And for that, we have to go deep, and we have to go deep into the sutras. You have to master the Diamond Sutra first few chapters, like you just have to make it real in your life. And they are the teachings that can give us the deepest relief and the deepest non-fear for the existential despair that some of us may touch. Then we have our daily pain, our daily despair, and what was mentioned, seeing others who suffer, seeing others in pain. And this is interesting because different ones of us, we may have different capacities to be with pain. And there is a practice that Thay had when Thay was helping the refugees who were escaping Vietnam in the 1970s. And they were also sponsoring orphans who had been orphaned by the war. And they organized a huge program to sponsor many tens of thousands of orphans. And that sponsorship came from Thay's network when he was in exile in Europe and America. And Thay's practice was he would write a personal letter to possible sponsors for a child. So he would have the photo of the child. And Thay's practice, he explained to us, was to look at the photo of the little child and to put himself in the child's skin, to really imagine that child. And then he would write the letter to the sponsor saying, you know, please help, please sponsor this one beautiful life that needs your help right now. So we do have this practice of putting yourself in the skin of someone else who is suffering. But we have to be aware of our limit. And some of us, if we're more in the empath, I think it's called empath, we are over empathetic. We over identify too much with those who suffer. And we're not able to stay what we would say sovereign. We're not able to keep our own groundedness. And so each one of us, we have to experiment and realize, how can we contribute? What, you know, if we find our mind is becoming like drawn into another person's suffering, we have to reel back and re-center ourselves, ground ourselves, recollect ourselves with the energy of mindfulness and mindful breathing. And in that case, we're taking care of how the other person's suffering is already triggering something in us. And after Thay met Oprah Winfrey, he said this was something that also Oprah Winfrey had, that she was sensitive to someone's story because she had something similar herself. So when we find that it's hard to really hold the suffering of someone else, there is some work to be done inside. So take care, come back, close our sense doors, maybe withdraw from the room, maybe ask if you can end the phone call or the Zoom call. Take some time to be with yourself and ask, what is coming up here? How am I feeling? What is the pain? And to take time to use our mindful breathing to recognize it, to embrace it, and to be with it without trying to fix it right away. So in our practice of handling strong emotions, and this is a real challenge, we don't want to blame ourselves or judge ourselves or criticize. Why am I feeling that? I'm a practitioner. I want to be peaceful. So there's a lot going on, and we want just to be with. And I've really learned this. And this is a continual practice for me, allowing myself to be with the pain and just knowing that just breathing with it is enough. I don't yet need to change it in any way. I don't need to fix it. I will just be with it. And with that breath, the mindful breathing is, Thay would say, already penetrating and having an effect on that painful feeling. And then the practice of looking deeply into it may take some time. It may take a few days, few weeks, or even a few months if it's a bigger block of pain. And for me, I like to use the 16 exercises of mindful breathing. So some of us may already be familiar with that. And it's the Anapanasati Sutra. And we can, in one sitting session, maybe of 20 minutes, we can take a feeling and walk through all of these steps to really examine that feeling and look deeply into it. And with the first steps of being with our breathing and our body, we're calming the feeling and accompanying it. And then in the third set of 4 and the fourth set of 4, we're really taking the eyes of insight, of Zen, of deep looking to really penetrate, to get some relief from that painful feeling. And I've mentioned touching the earth, but for many of us in the monastery, the practice of these prostrations, guided prostrations, is a deep way to be able to be with and move strong emotions through the body. And so if, for example, we're feeling some grief or despair for the earth, please practice the earth contemplations that are in the Plum Village app. So we have 10 contemplations that Thay gave us, and they can be accompanied with prostrations. And allow yourself to be nourished, to cry, to go on this journey of deep interbeing with the earth through that practice. And you could practice the whole set of 10 days in a row, and then do it over again. Give yourself 3 weeks to really move that energy through and see what insights come up in yourself with them. And if our pain is in relationships, a relationship that is hard to heal, we can use the practice of the 5 earth touchings, and they're also in the Plum Village app, guided by Sister Chang Kong. And so for those who haven't yet done this, wonderful Dharma door, bring your tissues and be ready to feel both the love of Sister Chang Kong and the spiritual courage. And that's, so it's using you contemplating while standing up, and then practicing a prostration, and then spending a few minutes mindfully breathing on the ground to really release and let go and heal. And of course, we have the practice of walking meditation. And I think sometimes it can be a mistake if we feel we have to sit with a painful feeling. And I think a lot of painful feelings benefit more from movement. And also recent neuroscience research and trauma research shows us the need of movement in the body when we're experiencing emotional discomfort. And we know that walking meditation is a very, very powerful way to embrace a feeling. And so we'll be coming back to our footsteps and allowing the feeling just to be there in our heart, and being there in our steps as we're walking. And then, almost like we have with the 16 exercises, we then can ask some questions of our painful feeling once it has calmed after 10 or 20 minutes. And we may, while walking, be able to practice some deep looking into that painful feeling. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Dedication, for embracing Mentimeter and somehow being able to navigate all the beautiful questions from the heart. So just looking at the time, we have just over 12 minutes left. So I'll just like to invite Sister Lei to maybe invite the sound of the bell for us to breathe, flowing as a river, breathe as an organism together. So, dear respected Thay, dear Sangha, the way we see things and how we are going to be, especially with the 5 mindfulness trainings, 2 deep teachings from the book, and also from Sister Dedication today. I just want to share that in 2013, I was at EIAB for my first retreat, and my 5 mindfulness training Dharma name was given by Sister Dedication. And she was very cheeky. She came and she said, crossing to the other shore of the heart. You don't just have the 5 mindfulness trainings, you also have the 6 parameters. And I was very overwhelmed with both love and stress. But that was also the last time I had the privilege of a live guided sit with Sister Dedication. We were in the forest with the Wake Up group in Germany. We found an opening and we sat in a circle, and we had I can still remember goosebumps as I was thinking of that sit that we had together, and we had Dharma sharing in the forest. So today we also have 8 years later, I now feel so happy that we have a chance again for Sister Dedication to guide us in a short sit as this beautiful session comes to an end or in beginning. So I just would like to invite everyone to fasten your seatbelts, and I'll just hand over to Sister Dedication for a short guided sit, and just heart full of gratitude for today. We're bowing up.
Thank you so much, Will, and everyone. It's lovely to breathe together and to feel deeply connected to one another, connected really in our heart aspiration and in our love for this practice and our trust in community. And I would like to offer you a meditation that Thay first gave in French. And I think Will speaks about goosebumps. I think I had goosebumps and tears the first time I heard this meditation. Thay just gave it once in French. It came from his store consciousness. And so we have an English translation that I will offer to you. And if you want, you can find the French original in Thay's voice online. And it's an invitation to nourish ourselves with the visualization and the realization of our interbeing with the earth. So we can take a moment to really savor the next 8 or 10 minutes. Take a moment to make sure our back is happy, our lungs are happy. So check our posture, see if we can roll open our shoulders, give our lungs a little bit more space to breathe. See if our neck feels upright, a little bit maybe stretched and spacious. And I always like to wriggle our fingers a little bit. They're so busy with the devices sometimes. I feel before sitting, we always have to release some tension in our fingers and let them really be at peace and gently cradled in one another in our lap. And we'll start with another sound of the bell. I listen. This wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. Breathing in, I see the element earth in me, the element air in me. I see the clouds, the snow, the rain, and the rivers in me. I see the atmosphere, the winds and and forests in me, the mountains and oceans. I see the earth in me. Breathing out, I smile to the earth in me. I am one with Mother Earth, the most beautiful planet in our solar system. Mother Earth in me, smiling to the most beautiful planet in our solar system. Breathing in, I see the element of light in me. I am made of light, made of the sun. I see our star as an infinite source of life, nourishing us in every moment. Buddha Shakyamuni was a child of Father Sun, and so too am I. Breathing out, I smile to the sun in me. I am the sun, a star, one of the most beautiful stars in our entire galaxy. I am a child of the sun. I am a star. Breathing in, I see all my ancestors in me. My mineral ancestors, plant ancestors, mammal ancestors, and human ancestors. My ancestors are always present, alive in every cell of my body. And I play a part in their immortality. Breathing out, I smile to the cloud in my tea. A cloud never dies. A cloud can become snow or rain, but never nothing. I also play my part in the immortality of the cloud. I am my ancestors, playing my part in the immortality of my ancestors. Breathing in, I see the stars and the galaxies in me. I am consciousness manifesting as cosmos. I am made of stars and galaxies. Breathing out, I smile to the stars in me. I play my part in the immortality of clouds, rain, stars, and the cosmos. Smiling to the stars and galaxies in me, playing my part in the immortality of stars and cosmos. Breathing in, I touch the reality of this moment where I'm sitting, the air I'm breathing, the condition of my body in this moment. Breathing out, I smile to this moment in time. I smile to this body. I smile to this air I'm breathing. And I smile to all our friends online who are breathing and smiling together. Breathing in, savoring this moment, this body. Breathing out, smiling to this moment and this body. Thank you all so much for breathing and smiling together. I will check the screens to make sure that everyone is smiling. It's a kind of face yoga. Very nice to offer ourselves the gift of a smile. And before we wrap up, I'm so happy to see Sister Yak An, who is your very own, our very own Singaporean sister, who is here. You can see her on maybe the second page of the screens. Sister Yak An, you want to offer a wave? Can you remove your hat so we see your beautiful monastic head? Voila! Sister Yak An. So we're very happy to have Sister Yak An with us in the Lower Hamlet. And for those of you who don't know her, she has roots in both Singapore and Hawaii and has recently become a bhikshuni. So we were very keen that although today is lazy day in Plum Village, I wanted Sister Yak An to hop on and say hello to you from Plum Village. Dear Sister Yak An, would you like to say anything to the Sangha?
Hello, Joyful Garden. It's really nice to see so many familiar faces. And also I see some people from all over the world, including Israel. So it's I'm really happy to see everyone. And yeah, it's been quite a journey this year. So maybe I hope to come back next year for home visit. So hopefully we can connect in person next year. Yeah, I will keep you informed. Yeah, so I'm doing well in Lower Hamlet. Yeah, we're just finishing our rains retreat. Yeah, looking forward to a few days of lazy days, and then looking forward to opening next year. So hopefully some of you can come next year also. Yeah. We're ready to have guests again, I think. Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Sister Yak-an is one of our Earth Bodhisattvas in the Sangha. So with her background in science and, would you say marine biology, or how would you describe
Just
your...
biology. Yeah, biology, ecology. I have my roots in the rainforests of Southeast Asia, Singapore and Malaysia.
So we've benefited a lot from Sister Yak-an's presence here in looking deeply into all our earth actions, and we hope Sister Yak-an will be contributing more of her insights and experience with us in the future. So super happy to have you with us, dear sister. Thank you so much for joining. So maybe we can hand back to our beloved hosts,
Yes.
to Will or Anle or Trish. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having this. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much. Nice to see you, Sister Yak-an. And thank you so much for the beautiful sit, Sister Dedication. So we have one item left on the agenda. I hope everyone can stay just a couple more minutes as I invite our dear brother David to share the merits, as we do online in the past year or two when we practice online. So handing over to brother David.
It's a beautiful encapsulation of the Diamond Sutra in this lovely sharing of the merits. Practicing the trainings, practicing the way of awareness, gives rise to benefits without limits. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along the path.
So thank you, dear sister. Thank you, Joyful Garden. Thank you, friends and family. It's been a wonderful evening. Yeah. I think we all know now what to do or not do. Relax. Yeah.
Thank you all so much. It's been such a joy to be with you all, and thank you for the wonderful dialogue and questions. It's so enriching.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Very powerful.
So